All right, here we go. This is your lecture for the week about World War II. First off, before we get started, shout out Des, feed the fool, always repping. Anyway, hopefully if you're watching this, you've already watched the overview video. So you know this is the only set of notes for the week. So you got these notes and you should be filling these in. Also on modules, make sure you look at the very top module for online learning this week. Then after you do this, you'll have another PowerPoint to look through. You'll have a couple of assignments. You'll have a discussion question, and I'll be sending you out question of the days on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning on Remind and on Canvas. So let's roll. Let's roll with these notes. So World War II. First of all, need to notice the years, 1939 to 1945. So World War I ended in 1918. So you got about 20 years in between. That was caused that during that time you had economic depression. A lot of countries are struggling. A lot of countries are turning to different ideas. So here we go. Causes of World War II. Feelings of bitterness and hatred. This is mostly talking about Germany. Treaty of Versailles, the end of World War I, mostly blamed Germany. So they're bitter about that. They don't like that. Everybody's struggling for money. The rise of fascism in places like Germany and Italy. You have these hardcore leaders who are driving these hatred feelings towards other countries, other peoples, strict hardcore nationalism. Japan is starting to take some people over. The League of Nations is weak, like we talked about. They came up with all these rules and ideas, but they didn't have a military, so they couldn't stop anybody. Appeasement, that's like Cam at the grocery store where he's throwing a fit, and I'm just trying to, one situation at a time, to try to get through it instead of standing up to him. And then the United States was isolationist. So since we're kind of chilling on the other side of the pond, Germany's kind of starting to take over some folks. So a new kind of war. So we got tanks, we got ships, we got airplanes. We're not doing the whole trench warfare thing. Anytime for the final exam, if you are going to have a final exam, who even knows? But for a final exam next year, SAT, ACT, anything big picture, if you ever see trench warfare, 99 times out of 100, they're talking about World War I. That is over with, okay? Bombs dropped by planes, destroyed everything, including thousands of civilians. We'll talk about some extreme bombs later. Area covering almost half the world. And it was going to be fought on two major fronts, okay? You have the European theater and you have the Pacific theater. Today, all I'm going to be talking about is the European theater, okay? The war fought in Europe with the bad guys specifically being Europe and Italy. Okay, so let's talk about the Allied powers. When you see Allied powers, that's the good guys. So you have Great Britain, okay, this Winston Churchill. You have France and their leader with this flowery hat. You got to love this guy. Soviet Union, this is Joseph Stalin. He's a bad guy. We'll talk about that in a second. And then the United States, this is FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. So first thing is, why is this guy, who's one of the most awful human beings to ever walk the face of the earth, why is he on the side with the good guys? Well, the answer to that is that the enemy of my enemy is my friend. If you'll remember back to the last lecture, remember he made a deal with Hitler, said nobody's going to attack each other. Well, Hitler's going to kind of go back on his word, attack Russia. So since we have a common enemy, this guy, Joseph Stalin's going to be on our side. But we're going to fight this entire war knowing that as soon as this war's over, us and Russia are going to have beef because they're communists. We don't jibe with that, okay? The Axis powers, okay? Hirohito from Japan, your boy Benito Mussolini from Italy, and Adolf Hitler from Germany. He's going to be the big bad dude. Okay, here's a map kind of showing you some specific battles that took place. This is the Normandy landing, D-Day, Battle of Bulge. My grandfather fought in this war, okay? So this is going to be kind of the area where Great Britain, France, the United States are going to be fighting eventually. And then here's going to be over here where the Soviet Union, Russia is fighting Germany on that side, okay? So Hitler's war in Europe, Blitzkrieg. If you know anything about football, you know the idea of a blitz as we're coming at you right now. That term comes from World War II. Hitler's lightning warfare. We're going to hit you suddenly. We're going to hit you quickly and from the air, okay? This is starting with the invasion of Poland, and this is basically going to be leading with Hitler taking over everyone. He conquers France, and then eventually in the Battle of Britain, it's one of the greatest air battles ever fought. Basically, London is going to be destroyed by air battle. So anytime you see the word blitzkrieg, that's talking about German philosophy of lightning warfare, through the air, quick, with no warning. Okay, here's some pictures of the aftermath of the Battle of Britain. Lots of smoke, lots of fire. Okay, so the Allies, here was our battle plan. Our battle plan was to gain control of the Mediterranean Sea, the area below Italy, the area below Europe, between Africa and Europe. We were going to invade Italy from the south. Okay, so once we defeat the Germans and Italians in North Africa, then we can go and kind of take over actual Italy. So a lot of you may not have known that a lot of the fighting in World War II actually happened in Africa. So the idea was we were going to take over Africa, defeat the Germans there, come up through Italy, defeat them, and then we were going to invade France, which the Germans had, and take them out in the rest of Europe. Okay. Italy is going to surrender in 1943, but the Germans are going to keep fighting for a little bit longer. Okay. Now, the United States involvement, okay, allowed the U.S. to sell arms. So just like World War I at the beginning, we're just going to be selling arms. Okay. We're not fighting. We're just selling arms. Okay. We're not going to actually get in the war until the Japanese bomb us in 1941 at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. Once they did that, it's full on. FDR declares war, and we're fully in the war. Now, here is another creepy cartoon to go with the last creepy cartoon, right? So the last one, these two guys were getting married. Now he's stabbing him in the back. So here's Stalin, here's Hitler, he's stabbing him in the back. The Russians, once they get attacked by Germany, they go scorched earth. We've talked about this before. The Germans are coming. They're probably not going to be able to stop them. So they burn everything to the ground, okay? So that when the Germans come into these cities, everything is destroyed. Everything is freezing cold. Lots of people are going to die. A lot of people think of like what we did in World War II, but if you actually look at the numbers, it's actually wild and staggering how many Russians died in the two world wars, especially World War II. More Russians are going to die than any other countries. So Hitler orders the generals not to retreat, dug in. As I've told you many, many times in my class, if I teach you one thing in this class is if you ever try to take over the world, don't attack Russia in the winter. Hitler does it. It works out just the same way it did for Napoleon. Not great. Hitler eventually lost 500,000 men and was forced to retreat. Okay, so D-Day. This is the famous invasion when the American, Canadian, British troops, we invade the beaches of Normandy. This is in France. Now remember, you're like, why are we invading France? Remember, at this point, Germany has control of France. There are a lot of movies made about this. The opening scene of Saving Private Ryan, I'm going to tell you right now, it's very gory, very graphic. But if you want to check that out on YouTube, you can find that. It's a very realistic look at what that was probably like. This was the largest water-to-land invasion in history. It was led by General Dwight D. Eisenhower. If that name is familiar, that's because later he is going to become president. Okay, so despite the fact that we lost a lot of people, this was successful because this got us onto the land in Europe. Once we got onto the land, now we can push the Germans back. We can get all of our tanks, all of our weapons, all of our supplies onto land, and we can start pushing them back, okay? Here's a picture of after we've controlled the beach, us bringing in all of our squads, all of our troops, all of our tanks, all of our boats. All this stuff is coming onto the beach, okay? Come on. Here's a picture of what it would have looked like if you were getting off the boat and attacking the beach, all the smoke. Now, when it was actually starting, people were getting, blown away as soon as they got off the boats. Very scary, very courageous thing that our troops did, okay? So the Holocaust, probably the biggest downer, the worst aspect of World War II. The Holocaust was part of the final solution of Hitler and the Germans. Their idea was they were going to try to create a perfect race, and they were going to try to do away with, to basically exterminate all the people groups that they thought were not ideal, right? So gypsies, Russian, Poles, homosexuals, and especially Jewish people were gathered up. They were thrown in areas called ghettos. Many of them were taken to concentration camps. They were into forced labor. They were used for experimentation. Millions died. Okay, so this was one of the darkest spots in human history. At least 6 million European Jews died in these concentration camps and during massacres. When I was in college, I actually got to go to Poland and got to go to Auschwitz, which is the biggest concentration camp. And I can tell you that nothing in my life has ever compared to the feeling of going in that place. Just pure evil. I was in the showers where people were gassed. I was against the walls where people were shot. I went into the bunks where hundreds and thousands of people were crammed into bunks. Just a very, very sad time overall. There's actually another PowerPoint that Coach Lee put into our modules that I want you guys to just go through and look. You're on your own, read through it, look through it. Here's some pretty harrowing pictures of the Holocaust and what it did to these people. These are pictures of ovens that were used to get rid of these people's bodies. Here are the showers where gas canisters were dropped over the top. A lot of times these people didn't know what was going on. They were rushed in these showers. If you've ever seen The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, one of the saddest movies I've ever seen in my life, we used to actually show that in class. You might have seen that before. So the war in Europe ends. The Allied troops from the east and the west meet near Berlin. Okay, Hitler knows what's coming to an end and he kills himself. Now there's some conspiracy theories out there about whether he actually did or did not. A lot of the German people, German soldiers, high ups, the generals, a lot of them actually were able to escape and actually go down to South America, Argentina, Brazil, places like that. It's kind of a pretty fascinating topic to ever research on your own. Germany surrenders on May 8, 1945. This is going to be called VE Day, Victory in Europe Day. Okay, FDR, great guy. Right before the end of the war, he dies, and his vice president, Harry S. Truman, became the president. And the reason that's going to be important is because he is going to be kind of faced with one of the biggest decisions that any president has ever had, and that's whether to drop the atomic bomb on Japan, which we will talk about next week. So that is your notes. Hopefully you followed along. Hopefully you filled them in. So now those are the only notes for the week. Now, if you go into modules, you can go down the list and you can check off. And when you actually turn in those assignments, you're going to want to go to the assignments tab and you'll see the 2 assignments for the week. And that's where you go to turn them in. You'll upload your file. I would prefer on your timeline and on your grapes that you print those out, write them, take a picture, and upload that picture. That's what I would prefer. If you type them in, that's fine as well, but I would much rather you handwrite them in. That is it for the day. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. I hope you like this setup of everything being available on Monday, and you can do it the rest of the week at your own pace. I will be available for my kids at 10:30 on Zoom. If you have any questions, if you don't, that's fine. It will be probably a short 15 to 20 minute thing. I just want to be available for you. I'm also always available for you on email, Remind, and on Canvas. So you guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time. Love you guys.